Happy Wednesday, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Thank you for joining us for another week of Black Girl Joy, where we discuss everything that makes us happy. All right? Black Girl Joy. So this week, we have a super special guest that I'm going to bring in, and we are talking about aging. And you know, I hate to age. I hate to age. How many other people hate to age? And I know, don't tell me that corny line about, well, it would be worse the other way. I got you. But we're going to be talking about aging. So let's welcome our guest. While I bring her in, please remember to like, share, subscribe. So take a moment right now, click that like button, click the share button, and click subscribe. All right. Are you ready? Are you ready, special guest? All right. Introducing Miss Audrey Bates Glenn.
Hello, Joy.
Hi. So I met Miss Audrey through my great friend, Grace. And the first thing Miss Audrey told me that caught my attention was her nickname for herself. What's your nickname?
I'm a funky Gen Xer, Joy.
What does that mean?
That means I am a conscious optimizer of how I get older.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
A conscious optimizer of how you get older.
Yes. I'm paying attention to my quality of life. I'm paying attention to my passions. I'm embracing who I am. I'm embracing where I've come from. I'm embracing the obstacles I've overcome. I'm a funky Gen Xer. I'm living life. I'm living life well.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So a little background on me is I hate aging. Okay. And ever since I was little, I felt like once I turned 35, like it was going to be over. Right. I remember thinking like, oh, once I turn 35, I don't know. Like, I don't want nobody changing my diapers. Right. I don't know why I thought that at a young age, but I did. But on the other hand, my mom was like, I can't wait to get to Social Security age. I can quit this job. And so she was racing to her 60s. And I'm like, stop. I remember, here's a story. You know how people stop celebrating their birthdays? Like when they start getting older?
I don't.
Oh, you never heard of that? How people are like, oh, I'm still 25. I'm still like.
Oh, you mean acknowledging? Yeah.
So I literally, and I don't know if Grace remembers this, on my 25th birthday, I told everyone they could not celebrate it because I'm turning 25 and this is sad. This is a sad moment. I'm turning 25.
Where does that fear come from?
I had this thing with milestones, right? I'm like, I'm 25. I got to be responsible. Why? I like people, if I do certain stuff at 25, and I was not that irresponsible, just to be honest. But I was like, if I do stuff at 25, they're going to think, look at her at 25. Oh my gosh, she needs to grow. So I have struggled with Grace said, yes, I remember.
Oh my God.
I have struggled with age since I was 25.
Really?
And I think that I've always hung around. When I was little, I had a babysitter who lived to be almost 100, right? So I always congregated around people who were older than me.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like, and way older than me sometimes. So I always felt more comfortable around them than people my age. But for some reason, to me, it was like, oh, I'm going to become that person one day who's like 90. Right. I guess if I'm lucky. So now when I think about aging, I'm like, I'm getting closer. There's two aspects to aging, Audrey. There's the physical aspect of aging and there's the mental aspect of aging. Yes. And I feel like both have taken a turn, especially maybe in the last decade.
Okay.
Have you noticed that? that people are taking care of their bodies more,
Yes.
but they're also taking care of their mental state and staying young mentally.
Yes. Yes. And I would say a lot we can probably credit a lot for that, right? One of the things that I like to think about is how technology has allowed us all to be more knowledgeable about how to take care of ourselves, right?
Mm.
As far as the physical, I think that we're living longer, right? So as we're living longer, we're aging, we're wanting to have a better quality of life because we intend to be here longer. My
Mhm.
grandmother used to tell me a story. Her mother worked for Strom Thurmond when she was a kid. And she said that man would run. This is before jogging was anything anybody did, but he would run
Mhm.
every morning 6, 7 miles every morning.
Wow.
And we all know that folks like that lived a long, long time, right?
Mhm.
That's because they knew they wanted to age and still be able to make the decisions they were making.
Yeah.
You have to look at things like that from anybody and think about how do we want to be able to manage our quality of life as we get older? And we have to take care of ourselves physically to do that. I've seen so much, there's so much information out here now. There's so many
Mhm.
resources out here now. There's just really there's almost no excuse except I think chosen ignorance if we don't take care of ourselves. And as far as
Mm.
the same thing, I mean, people like you, we have wonderful coaches, we have we have people in the field who can give us this information for free. Like, people have to choose to not make sure that they sustain a high quality of life as they get older, because it's almost like you can't, the information is everywhere we turn.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Do you think when you talk about that other generation, what lessons did we take from them? Because I know for
Mm,
me, like watching my mom first not taking care of herself, then my mom was
okay.
diagnosed with diabetes
Okay.
somewhere around when I was in middle school, right? And
Mm,
I remember her literally like we went to the track and walked every day. She made the changes she needs to make.
good.
And now and she really got it under control. Um, but now as I'm getting older and I start thinking about those things, when I was young, I used to just drink milkshakes for lunch and dinner. Like it was amazing. But
Right.
as I start feeling some of those physical changes, right? You drink a milkshake, you gain 10 pounds. You like things don't work the way it used to work. Um, I'm starting to use her example of being like, okay, well, if I'm changing, then my behaviors need to change as well.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
so I think the older generation, they put taking care of us ahead of everything. And
they did. They did. And I would say even ahead of our emotional
mhm,
connections with them.
mhm,
There are lots of Gen Xers who are byproducts of the boomers attitude about children, which is be a provider, provide for their needs, but they should be seen and not heard, right?
mhm,
So I'm having these conversations with a lot of people in my age group, in my generation, who's it seems as though what was missing in the household though was the emotional validation from their parents,
mhm.
especially those parents who really were dogmatic about taking care of them, providing for their needs. And back to your first question, is as far as like our mental state, I think it's upon us though to first acknowledge that our parents did the best they could with what they
Mhm.
knew, and and the circumstances and the age that they were in. But we have to take it upon ourselves to heal ourselves where we need to and how we need
Yeah.
to, right? So, but I think that it's important also not to let societal pressures don't succumb to societal pressures. I mean, getting older is, it really is a gift. Now I want to, I could use that corny line, it's a gift not afforded many, but it is. And the thing about it is that if you constantly remind yourself that it is a negative thing, then
Mhm.
you'll have a negative outcome. So you really have to kind of, rethink how you're thinking about and how you're looking at getting older, because it can be a blessing, you know. It is a blessing. It's a way of life
Yeah.
for some of us, but I mean, society is what it is and it's done what it's
Yeah.
done. So we
Yeah,
have
and I don't know if mine is so much society based, just the fear of what you see, right? Like, okay, you
yeah.
don't know what's gonna happen. Am I gonna, Is this going to happen to me? Am I going to get this illness? Like, who's going to take care of
Yeah.
me? Because I don't know that my son will.
Well, that's valid. Now, those are valid concerns. Those are valid concerns. And here's the thing: like, no matter how healthy of a lifestyle you try to maintain,
Mhm.
there are hereditary factors that
Mhm.
we can't negate, but we can mitigate. Like, we
Yeah.
can make sure to stay on top of, based on our family history, our
Mhm.
sugar, our sugar levels, and and stretching and exercise and all these
Yeah.
different things. Um, and I just would say some things we're not going to be able to control, but life
Yeah.
is not about control. It's about creating options for yourself, right?
I like.
It is about not comparing.
Mhm.
It is about embracing your unique situation, your unique circumstances, your unique personality, who you are, and living your best life based on who you are as a person. And in getting older, we just have more knowledge. We I think we have more appreciation for how to do that as we get
Mhm.
older. So I think that's probably one of the value adds about being a more mature woman these days
Okay.
is, yeah,
So
it's
I want to ask you
Mhm.
in the audience, who
Okay.
taught you about aging, right? Because I
Oh,
clearly had a good example in my mom. She wanted to get older, but I still didn't take it. And my grandmama lived till she was 90. How old was she? Oh my gosh, 97, 96. And my bonus grandmama lived until she was about 99. So, but where did you
longevity in
get
your family.
this? Yeah, where did you get this appreciation for aging? Where did you learn about aging? Was it a positive example, or was it a not so positive example, but you took something different away from it? And for the people in the audience, please drop in the chat. What did you learn about aging as you were growing up, and who did you learn about it from?
Well, I was a kid like you. I like to spend time with older neighbors in my neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I really admire. I just respected conversations with them. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
had one neighbor. Her name was Doris, and she used to tell me, Audrey, she said, "You've been here before." I would go and visit her. We sit and we have long conversations. I just felt seen and heard,
Mm-hmm.
by older people. Both my grandmothers, like you, we had longevity in my family's parts. The women in my family, both my
Mm-hmm.
grandmothers lived in their 90s. So, I was very close to my grandmothers. Um, at my On both sides of my family, my father's family, and my mom's family is very close, just closer with the older generation. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think it was more me focusing on the connections I had with people and the advice that I took from them as far as interacting with people and relationships and those kinds of things. I don't think I focused so much on what's going to happen to me as I get older.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but of course, at this big old age, I'm thinking about what's going to happen as I get older. I mean, there are financial considerations. There are a lot of things we have to take into consideration now.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as my attitude about aging, first of all, I really don't look at myself as being the big old 5'4" that I am, right? I feel younger. I think my attitude is still young and fresh, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
excited to try new things and learn new things, and I keep that excitement about myself, and I consider myself to be a lifelong learner.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say learner, I'm not necessarily meaning I don't have multiple degrees, only have one, but I like to learn people. I like to learn as society changes and dwarfs and becomes and change and just all these changes we're going through. I like to keep up with them. I like to be involved. I like to talk with people. I like to get different people's perspectives. Those kinds of
Mm-hmm.
things I think kind of help me keep a healthy young attitude. So I don't fear so much getting older, but I think about the practical aspects of getting older. That
Mm.
is true.
All right. So my oldest sister, who may or may not be watching, um, she used to tell me, or she used to say, I can't wait till I get old so I can tell people exactly what I want to say. And we've all encountered. I'll give you an example. I went to Honey Baked Ham. There was this older lady working at the counter, and y'all don't laugh at me. She was working, well, actually, working at the counter. She was working making the sandwich, and I ordered a sandwich, and I'm plain. And so she had like this little funny attitude. about my plain sandwich. And so every time she put something on the sandwich, because I really didn't want nothing on it, she would look at me. She would put something else. She would look at me. So when I go to get the sandwich, right, she looks at me. She say, "Honey, have you ever been waxed?" I was like, "No." And she said, "Cause I sure want to take that mustache off your face." And I thought,
Whoa!
I took it off because of her. It's gone. So there were people in there that kind of looked like, did she just say that out loud? So we all have encountered those older women who say whatever they want. And sometimes what you want to say probably shouldn't be said or shouldn't be said like that. Because then she tried to give me her card so that she actually does like waxing and stuff.
Oh.
But the way she did it was
That's
very harmful to
hilarious.
my self-esteem.
Wow, because it's so funny, but remember, we do feel that as we get older, we have the right to say what we want to say, how we want to say it. And I don't know if that's some of it is we feel like we've taken enough punches from in life that we can punch back if we want to, or if we feel like we're actually being helpful. I don't know, but like my maternal mother was one of those women who just said what was on her mind, and she didn't give a second thought to how it made anybody feel. It's just her truth. And it just, she just said it. And I'm becoming more like that though. But I think I try to be more considerate as far as people's self-esteem. But I find that it's harder and harder for me to not say exactly what I feel and what I mean. I don't want to be. I hope I don't become like my maternal grandmother in that aspect. But you just kind of, I think the older you get, you feel that you've paid enough dues to speak your truth at all times.
So there's a sense of freedom. And it's likely, I'm guessing, because you don't feel like you have to prove yourself anymore.
No, you don't. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. You don't have to prove yourself to anybody anymore. It's really just about, it is about being free. It's about being empowered. It's liberating, it's liberating to just tell the truth all the time. And some people call it brutal truth. It doesn't have to be brutal truth, but it can be absolute truth, but said in a soft way. Because I think as we're getting older too, a lot of us, the Generation X women, we're finding that we want to live softer lives and be softer people. It's kind of tough because we've been adulting, a lot of us on our own, even in marriages. We've been adulting and depending on ourselves for so long that the transition to being softer women, softer people, there's kind of no way to really define what that looks like or feels like. But I think kind of letting your shoulders down and just kind of letting some of the weight of what you've experienced fall. I think that's a key to it. And telling your truth is key to it too, because if you don't let it out, you can only hold it in. And if you hold it in, it's going to weigh on you somehow.
Yeah.
So
I love that. All right. Miss Grace Williams says, I love you both. Thank you.
I love you, Grace. love Grace.
Veronica, my mom and my aunts, I had such an admiration for how each carried themselves and just the life lessons. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. There's so many life lessons we could discuss.
There are. So let's talk about this. You start talking about in relationships and being softer, right?
Yeah.
So I'm of a certain age, right? I'm not at the 5'4". I'm of a certain age, right? And I feel like the older I get, the less patience I may have for certain stuff, especially when it comes to dating. In the new way, when we talk about the new way to age, dating for my parents and the generation before was much different than it is now. So what does this new age of dating look like?
And especially for us more experienced gals, right? For me, I'm going to tell you, my secret to enjoying being unmarried, being single, and dating. And that is, for me, I've always enjoyed male friendships.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up, for me, being in the presence of guys, of just the way men think,
Mm-hmm.
it's always just been easier for me
Mm-hmm.
for a number of reasons, right? So I approach dating as new friendships, and we'll see where it goes based on what you show me.
Mm-hmm.
Two things: don't force anything. Don't pry, don't poke, don't force. Let them show you. Give them the freedom to show you
Mm-hmm.
who they are, what their intentions are, what they prefer, right? And you're just watching. You enjoying the company, hanging out, playing golf, whatever you're doing, but you're enjoying it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Another thing is that the friendship, do if you do want to get into a relationship with someone, you want that friendship to be the core of it anyway, right? The
Yeah.
basis of it. So if you develop that friendship going in, um, then you really haven't lost anything if a romance doesn't develop or doesn't work out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because a friendship is way more valuable and way more enjoyable sometimes than a romantic relationship, depending on where you are as far as how you've healed and how you've learned to be in a romantic relationship. Most of us ain't great at it. I mean, it's too tough nowadays. I think as far as our gender roles, um, it's tough being a woman and being an adult and not being too independent for a traditional man.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough for a man to be who he is and expect to be a provider, and it's tough for anybody to be a provider these days. And but we're still judging men, or we're still kind of um, valuing men based on what they bring to the table financially.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very unfair dating environment we're in right now.
Mm-hmm.
Very unfair for both. Um, I would just say you just go in it without expectations. You go in it looking for friendship. And then if the chemistry lends to it growing into something else, then you don't push back, you let it happen if it feels safe. So that's all the advice I can give on that. But I enjoy it. I have fun.
You have fun.
I do.
No, but you hit on something, right? And I don't go too far down the line on this because I feel like it gets very like
Yeah.
polarizing when you start
Hmm.
talking about dating. But definitely with
Yeah.
the new age woman being almost hyper independent, right?
Hmm.
And it's almost like, okay, well, you can be here, you can't type of
Hmm.
thing.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know if society has adjusted to the new age woman.
I think there's this constant pushback. It's
Mm,
almost like, I'm going to compare it to another ism
okay.
here, racism. It's
Oh,
like, I thought when I was young, I thought that by the time I was at this age, the old racists would have been 6 feet under by now. And we'd be looking at this new diverse world, and,
mm-hmm,
that it'd be a whole lot better. I think the same thing is happening though with gender roles. I
mm-hmm,
think we make progress, and then we've got the we're getting pushed back 2 steps for every step we make.
mm-hmm,
And it's almost like it just, to me, it goes back to people being afraid of change and losing control, right?
mm-hmm,
It's like you got some of the population that wants to see progress and wants to see, they want to, we've proven ourselves as leaders, women have, right?
yeah,
And then you've got that old power structure that's pushing back against it.
yeah,
And it's like, you may not like it, but there's nothing you're going to be able to do about it. The
mm-hmm,
problem is that now that we have so much, as I mentioned before, the technology, right? Now that
mm-hmm.
people can see so much and people can learn so much so fast and so easily, it's just getting harder and harder for that pushback to happen.
Yeah.
And,
I
and
was looking at
desperate measures though are in place. Desperate
oh
measures.
yeah, yeah. I was looking at some stats and even over like the last year, how the pay gap, because it is
Mm,
Women's History Month. Yesterday was Pay Equity Day as well as Pie Day. So I hope you guys got your pies and your pizzas. Um, but that pay gap is starting to close a little more. And I saw a little, it went back a little bit, I think, over the last year, but it's starting to close. And so as we do
Rightfully
that,
so.
there is definitely pushback. You find that with like you said, racism, right? When you see
Yeah.
like black pay and stuff going on, you're always gonna have that kind of tug of war. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay, we've made our claim, especially when we talk about Black women, right? When we go into the office, we know we got to work harder than everyone
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of pressure. And that's probably why when we get to 40, we like, I'm done
We're
with y'all.
tired. Yeah, we're
I'm
tired.
done playing the games.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
we have to go in and we have to work
Mm-hmm.
harder and
Yeah.
harder. And you talk about being softer, but it's hard to be softer when you're always playing basically offense to make sure that you can, maneuver to where you want to maneuver. Pay, job, relationships, you
Mhm.
feel like you always have to like play an aggressive type of role.
Yeah. Yeah. And even like starting as kids in the home. If I don't know if you've seen this, but a lot of times we raise our daughters to be independent, and we kind of spoil our sons. Like we treat our sons as if they're not expected to contribute as much or to be as independent as our daughters. I've seen
Mm-hmm.
this so much, over the years,
Mm-hmm.
and it plays out in relationships as men grow up. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like
Mm-hmm.
they're looking for caretakers, and we're independent, like you said. We're we're looking like, I mean, if I'm able to do this, what have you been doing? You know,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't step in and be that maternal connection that you needed. Like I'm too busy. I'm too busy being independent. I'm too busy doing what I'm too busy doing what you have not been doing for us. For
Yeah.
myself. It's
So
tough.
what would you tell? So we're at 7 o'clock.
Time.
That
Okay.
went fast, huh?
Okay. Okay.
What would you tell the next generation about aging?
I would say um gratitude.
Mm.
Just try to adopt an attitude of gratitude as often as you can, if not at all times, because that can help you create a softer you. Be softer on yourself, be gracious. Um, find your passion, and better yet, find out how to make money with your passion, because you'll never feel like you're working if you can do that. All right. And lastly, comparison is really the thief of joy. Never compare yourself to anyone else. Never compare your life. Never compare where you are in life. Never compare your physical appearance, anything. The only person you should be competing against, if I don't even like to use the word competing, but the only thing you should be comparing is, am I a better person? Have I learned something from this lesson? Um, how am I better at doing this particular thing? But as far as comparing yourself to other people, never do it. Just never
Uh,
do it.
I love that because now in the age of social media, you
Mm,
compare all day. If you're on social
my
media, you
gosh.
constantly looking at other people's lives. And a lot of times now we're comparing to celebrities, right? We didn't used to compare
Why?
our lives to celebrities.
Why?
We're
We
like,
don't
look,
even realize how hard it is to be a celebrity.
yeah,
We just see the glitz and the glamour.
yeah.
Yeah,
All
but
right.
find your own peace.
As we wrap up, thank
Mhm.
you, Miss Tamara. But some people are just rude. Yeah, I think that woman was just rude.
That's true.
And it has
That's true.
nothing to do with age. That
Yep.
is true. That is
Yes, that
very
is
true.
true.
And then Miss Grace, in the short time I knew my mom, she died when Grace was 21. Oh, she instilled so much in me. I think about the lessons even now. She was always
Mm,
graceful, which is why your name is
mm,
Grace, and classy, even when she
yeah,
talked to the racist folks on her job. That is true. I also think that's why we be like, we don't have time no more. Because we don't have to tiptoe
yeah.
so much. Head always held high. All right.
I
Thank
love
you,
it.
Grace.
I love it.
All right, guys, it's been 30 minutes and I have kept Miss Audrey longer than I have stated. So I want to thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to drop her, this is going to be her link tree, and you can find links to all of the places she's at here. All right. You're going to find it in the chat. It's going. It's going. There it is. Okay. But next week, we're going to be talking about women. Can we really have it all? Can we really have it all? Is that a reality? What happens when we try to have it all? What does that reality look like? So thank you, Miss Audrey, so much. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate it. Pass it on to all your friends and family. I appreciate it. Other than that, you guys have an amazing week. See you next week. Bye.